Okay, so you all know that I'm totally scared of bears, right? So I was talking to a bunch of people and they're just like, yeah, if you run into a bear, you just, wave your arms real big and go, hey bear, and the bear usually gets scared and just runs away. And I was like, okay. So I was starting to feel better about the bears. And then my sister was like, well, really, you don't really need to be scared about the bears, but have you ever thought about the timber wolves? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, timber wolves, they run in packs right down the lake in the wintertime. I was like, what? So not only do I have to worry about the bears, which they say I don't need to worry about the bears, now I have to worry about packs of wolves eating me. For God's sakes.
Hi, I'm Jax.
I'm Sassy Jax.
And I'm here to walk you through a greeting card I created using the Inspire Spellbinders Howling Wolf die.
Which is so cute.
I love the die cuts inside the fur. I pulled out some recollections paper from my stash along with some scrap paper that I had as well. I took out my Westcott titanium bonded score and trimmer and trimmed up the 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper to 8.5 by 5.5 and then scored the 8.5 by 5.5 pieces at the 4.25 mark and folded those down to create the card base, and then also cut some pieces go on top of the front of the card that are smaller than the front of the base.
The gray wolf, also known as the timber wolf, western wolf, or simply wolf, is a canine native to the wilderness and remote areas of Eurasia and North America. It's carnivorous. Its lifespan is 6 to 8 years in the wild. A male can be 66 to 180 pounds, and a female can be 51 to 120 pounds. Wolves live and hunt in packs of around 6 to 10 animals. They are known to roam long distances, perhaps 12 miles in a single day. These social animals cooperate on their preferred prey, large animals such as deer, elk, and moose.
Then I took out my Sistrix Big Kick die cutting machine, placed the die on the paper between the two plates, ran them through the die cutting machine, and I got this beautiful howling wolf. And you can see here I used a round stitch die, but I thought that it was going to cut out the round circle, but it turns out it just stitched the circle and the dies were not cutting dies. So it turns out that you can buy dies that only stitch things and not actually cut things, and I must have gotten it confused, but luckily I did have some dies that cut round circles, so I decided to pull out that die and get that all situated so I could make a shaker card. While I found the right die, I also noticed that the die cuts within the wolf did not pop out, so I had to tediously take my fingers and pop out the little pieces that were die cut out, and then eventually even had to take out a brush to kind of gently push those pieces out of the die cut. I took a piece of washi tape to tack on the die to the wood grain paper and again placed it through the die cutting machine and pulled it apart. I used the round stitched circle for one card and then I used the negative space for the other card. And I'm going to make a shaker card with the larger panel.
Although wolf attacks do occur, their frequencies vary with geographical location and historical period. Gray wolves' attacks are rare because wolves are often subsequently killed or even extirpated in reaction by human beings. I don't even know what that means.
I pull out my stamp stash to see what kind of sentiment I want to place on the inside of the card, and I chose No One Is You and That's Your Power by Funny Bones by Riley and Company, and Faith is seeing light with your heart when all your eyes see is darkness.
Boopity boo boo. Oh, it's such a pretty dog. I love it.
I took out my ATG gun and taped up the backside of the front of the card base and placed that onto the front of the card. I arranged the wood grain paper onto the card where I want it to be placed. I used my ATG gun, taped that up, and placed that on the card.
Do you know what you call a wolf that meditates?
No.
A werewolf.
A werewolf?
Yeah, they're a were.
Oh my gosh.
What do you call a wolf that's lost?
You got me.
An unaware wolf.
My gosh, that's ridiculous.
It is totally illegal to own a pure wolf in the United States. They're classified as an endangered and regulated species. While it's legal to own 98% wolf dogs, many states, counties, and cities are outlawing all wolves and wolf dogs. Any wolf or wolf dog found within the areas is immediately killed. That's genocide! That's horrible! Why are you putting that in this video? That's awful! Wolves prey primarily on large-hoofed animals. In Minnesota, the white-tailed deer is the wolf's primary prey, with moose, beaver, snowshoe hare, and other small mammals also being taken. I don't think it included humans, so I think we're safe. Canine experts have found no connection between the phases of the moon and wolf howling. Wolves pipe up more often during the night because they're nocturnal.
I take out my tonic glue and glue up the back side of the die and place that onto the front of the card. One thing I really enjoy about this glue is that if I'm not necessarily happy the first second that I set it down, it allows me to move it slightly, which is really nice. I place an acrylic block on top of the card to make sure that there's weight to press down so that the card does not warp. Sometimes using the liquid glue can make the cards warp slightly, which I found out the hard way. To make my shaker card, I pulled some acetate from a packaging that I had on hand. It's not something that I purchased separately. I put some tape on the back side. The paper, I took out my anti-static powder tool and I placed some powder on the acetate so that when I place the glitter onto the card that it doesn't stick to the acetate. I also pulled out some double-sided foam tape, placed that on the back side of the card in 2 layers, and pulled out some different sequins to make sure that there was some sparkle and bling in this shaker card. I was going to limit the colors to the ones that you see in front of you. However, I then decided, oh, it needs some more. I'm going to change it up and brought in some browns and some slight purples. The colors that I chose are more masculine, and I did that purposefully. I think that we tend to forget that sometimes cards can be for men too. I wanted to try my hand at doing a more masculine card, but still staying true to my craft style.
Which is bling it up, baby. Bling, 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 bling. Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle.
Oh, that reminds me. You guys should check out Sparkling Char's channel. She's a regular viewer of this channel, and she's always making comments in the comments below. And she has a great crafting channel. I will link her channel below if you want to check her out. And there you have it. I have the blingy, bling, bling, sparkly sequence in the shaker card. And hindsight is 2020, right? So I thought I should probably put like a moon in the background, but I kind of wanted to leave it the way it was. I enjoy the piece the way it is, and I hope you do too. Once the shaker was complete, I glued up the wolf and put the wolf on the front of the card.
Wild wolves are something kept as exotic pets and in some rarer occasions as working animals. Although closely related to domesticated dogs, wolves do not show the same tractability as dogs in living alongside humans. And generally, much more work is required in order to obtain the same amount of reliability.
Then I also pulled out the sentiment that's going on the inside of the card. Brand new, I pulled off the backer so that it would cling to the acrylic block, and I took out my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which I love because I find that this ink stamps better than most. And here you can see I'm testing out the stamp to make sure that it holds the ink and it's stamping very well before I stamp on the inside of the card.
It is true that generally wolves aren't very afraid of humans. Well, that's good because I don't want them eating me at all. The fear is probably because wolves have been so thoroughly persecuted by humans for so long. Thus, it is rare and notable event when someone spots a wolf in the wild, even when deliberately trying.
Again, this is a new stamp. I pull off the backer, attach it to my acrylic block, and I stamp it on the inside of the card. Once I pulled out that front card there, I decided it was kind of plain, so I wanted to add some sequins to the front of it because I just can't resist apparently, and I have to add sequins to pretty much everything that I have. So this is complete. On the inside, no one is you, and that's your power. The howling wolf at the moon and the shaker card. And on the inside, faith is seeing light with your heart when all your eyes see is darkness. So that's it, folks. 2 wolves howling at the moon, being wild and crazy. If you like what you see on this channel, consider subscribing because I'd love to have you as a viewer. Until next time, love you guts. Bye.
Ow! 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 Ow!
Did you ever think that maybe the wolf is in love with the moon and each month it cries for a love it will never touch?
No, that's ridiculous.